I'll share the video for folks later who join later, maybe who weren't able to be on. So thanks to those of you who have called in for this. This is the first one of these that we've done, and depending on what you all think or how it goes, we might do a couple of more leading up to when we meet back in person. But I'll go ahead and we'll start with agenda item number 1 and let our fearless leader and state director welcome you all to the call. Charlotte?
Well, okay, I still have this agenda in front of me. Is that to go away, or do I make it go away, or what? Okay. Okay, good morning, Kentucky AARP. It's so good to see so many of you all on here. We appreciate Rachel pulling this together. I think we need this. It's been a year since any of our chapters have met, and we're all anxious to meet, and hopefully soon. Maybe Mr. Bridges will share some information if he knows any more about when we might be back together. This has been one rough year. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "You don't know how strong you are till you drop a tea bag in a cup of hot water." And that's kind of where we all are right now. We've endured more than we ever thought we would. If you told me this was going to be a year of this last year, I would have said no. But we've made it, and we're looking forward to the rainbow. We hope everybody gets their shots, and so we can be together come maybe August, September. So again, welcome, and so good to see so many of you all, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Bridges.
Thank you, Charlotte, and thank you for your leadership of AARP Kentucky throughout the years, and we welcome each of the chapter representatives here this morning. We hope this is the first of many future opportunities for us to hear directly from you and the work that you're doing. We're so proud of all the efforts to this point, and saddened by the impact that the COVID-19 has had in your opportunities to get together with your local chapter members. But we are looking in a positive way towards post-September having an opportunity to return to regular functioning of the chapters and our outreach. We have a full agenda, and we are hoping that you'll walk away with a little better understanding of what we've got going on and the support that we can offer to you all. And once again, thank you for joining us, and thank you to the team for organizing this meeting. Turn it back to you, President Whittaker. Thank you.
Okay, I think next on the agenda is
Well, Charlotte, actually, can we just really quickly, for the few folks that are on, go ahead and, just say what chapter you're with, and maybe, what your role is, what your officer position is with the chapter. And we'll start with Marvin. You'll have to unmute yourself, Marvin.
How's that?
There you go.
I'm a chapter president of the Audubon Division, chapter 3863 in Louisville, Kentucky.
Thank you, sir. And then I know we have Ralph on as well. Ralph, you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm Ralph Mackinnon, chapter president of the Richmond chapter in Kentucky.
Thank you, sir. And then Mr. Harned, if you want to introduce yourself and say what chapter you're from, make sure to unmute yourself.
This is Rita Harned, and I am president of Mount Washington 4613. On your list a minute ago, but I'm here now.
Yeah, this is Bill Harned. I'm secretary of that chapter 4613.
Thank you both. And then I see we have somebody that just says iPhone guest. I'm not sure who that is, but if you unmute yourself and just let us know who you are and what chapter you're with.
That's Carla. That's Carla.
Oh, that's Carla. Okay. And Carla's with the Ohio County chapter.
She's muted.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll go ahead and switch over to Aneshia, and she's going to share some information with us about the vaccine campaign.
Good morning. So I think you all are aware of everything going on with the vaccines, but I'll give a little bit of an update about where Kentucky is and then what AARP's goal has been and role in vaccines. So according to the CDC, Kentucky's currently at 1.5 million people that have received at least one dose. So that's 34% of the total population. And of our population that is 65 plus, 75% of those folks have received at least one dose. So that is pretty good. I didn't see exactly where we are on the list, on the rankings, but Kentucky has done well with prioritizing the 50 plus in vaccine distribution. And so that is kind of where AARP comes in. So with the vaccine campaign, AARP has been focused on education about vaccines so that people can decide what's best for them and talk to their doctor about it, as well as advocacy to make sure that the 50 plus have been prioritized in distribution, to make sure that there's transparency about who's being vaccinated when, especially with long-term care facilities, making sure that there's transparency about cases in those facilities. And then now that we're really focused on vaccines, information about the staff and residents in those facilities being vaccinated. Another priority has been making sure that the long-term care facilities have proper PPE, personal protective equipment, to help keep staff and residents safe within the facilities, and making sure that, or at least advocating to ensure there's proper staffing in those facilities as well. So locally, we've done a few different things to help in Kentucky. So we have been able to keep in communication with the governor's office and state officials through the long-term care task force or other ways. We hosted a teletown hall in February that you may or may not have received the call for. And so we had a few different state officials and health officials that were able to answer questions and share information about where vaccines were at that time, which February with vaccines was like a year ago. So things have changed a lot in that amount of time, but it was really helpful information. And so recently, to support some of the volunteers that are working at these vaccine sites and different pop-up sites, the Louisville and Lexington teams both provided lunch to volunteers at First Virginia Avenue Baptist Church in Louisville, and then Shiloh Baptist and Consolidated Baptist in Lexington. So those are some unique ways that we were able to show support and help out at those sites with the volunteers. And so last week, I believe, and this week, we are hosting some Zoom and call-in sessions about vaccines with local public health departments. So we did one with Lexington. It may have been 2 weeks ago at this point, time flies, but we did one with Lexington and their health department. And then today we actually have one with Louisville Metro Public Health and the North Central District Health Department on Friday for Henry, Shelby, Spencer, and Trimble counties. So it seems at this point that people may be, especially with 75% of 65 plus being vaccinated, or at least with one dose, people aren't as, I guess, eager to get information about how to get an appointment. They either know how, but they're just having trouble with availability, or they've already been vaccinated. So really the questions are a bit more about, what happens now? Is it safe to see family? Is it safe to travel? So those are some of the questions that we're hoping to address.
Well, thank you very much. That's some great information. I know another issue that has been involved is being able to use technology to sign up for shots. And I know there's been, Channel 11 did a story on that. And I just want to brag on one of our AARP members here in Ohio County. And Carly, you may not know this, but Mayor Edge in Fordsville opened up City Hall for anyone that could not or did not have any kind of technology to register for a shot online, and her staff was allowed to help people. And to me, that was amazing. In a rural town of 532 people, that she stepped forward to do that. So I think we're seeing young people helping people, and churches helping people to make sure they do get registered for the vaccine. Okay, Mr. Eric, you're on.
All right. Thank you, Charlotte. And I just like to say thank you to all the chapter members that are out there and on the phone call. We love our chapters, and we enjoy going to our chapters, speaking to our chapters, and would like to say that anytime you need an advocacy update or anything like that, where once we get to in-person meetings or on Zoom now, you can definitely reach out to me, and we'll be glad to give you an advocacy update and be there in person when we can. Hopefully that'll be soon. But I just wanted to let you know what we did in the General Assembly. If you follow our Twitter and our Facebook page, you get updates in real time about what's going on, what bills we're looking at. And also you can always reach out to me. My email is edevans@aarp.org. If you have any questions about any legislation that you might see that you support, or that you think would cross our purview as, and in the interest of the 50 plus, we have that gigantic policy book that has a lot of, and is online. If you go to Public Policy Institute, you can look up all of our issues online. If you just Google AARP Public Policy Institute, you can find what there is out there, what kind of position we've taken through our volunteer board that's done all of our positions throughout the years. And that's how we determine what our main priorities are, also with what our leadership has us doing. So our main priorities this session were lowering the cost of prescription drugs, family caregiving. How do we support family caregivers so more folks can stay at home where they want to be, not in nursing homes? We've seen with the pandemic, that's something that a congregate setting's not very good for infections and passing flu, and obviously COVID-19. We saw the effects of that this year. And as Aneshia said, we were on the task force advising from the consumer perspective. The task force is made up of nursing home administrators, but also groups like Alzheimer's and other groups that have interest for the aging population and those folks that are in nursing homes, independent living, assisted living folks. So there was a good makeup of the governor's office. There was a great makeup of folks that all had input. And our main priority was keeping the nursing home folks safe. And I'm proud to report that the last 2 weeks, there's been days where the governor doesn't have a case to report of nursing home residents getting infected with COVID-19. So it's great to see the vaccine working, and just the efforts that we've done, providing guidance and AARP's leadership, telling us what to do, where, we'd never been through a pandemic. So this was really hard for AARP and really impressive that they were able to step in and give us the right policies to prevent, more this pandemic from becoming worse. And hopefully we can see it. We're not out of the woods yet, but hopefully we can see it better. And you can rest assured that AARP will be educating our members every step of the way and just doing what we can to support folks of 50 plus and also those in nursing homes are most vulnerable. But with that, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we accomplished this legislative session. These are all bills that were signed by the governor, so this is final action. House Bill 95 was a bill that put a cap on insulin costs. So many Kentuckians are having to decide between paying for their food and their utilities and might even ration their insulin. And I'm sure some of you have seen stories of folks that ration their insulin that actually passed away or lost limbs just because they couldn't afford it. It's $1,200 a month for most people. And if you don't have insurance that's really good, or you don't have certain benefits, heck, you're paying that much. And so the co-pays, they limited the co-pays. The insurance still pays the cost of insulin is way out of hand. We need to do something about that. But at least folks that are on the Affordable Care Act and the state plans, those that are sponsored by the state, now it's $30 caps for their copay for 30-day supply. So we've just made insulin affordable for thousands of Kentuckians. And that was a really great accomplishment. Representative Bentley, who's in Greenup County, and Representative Menor, who's in Bowling Green, co-sponsored that bill. And it had over 100 sponsors. And part of that was due to the efforts of our folks that attended our virtual lobby days to meet with the representatives. Also, we did a lot for caregiving this session. There's House Bill 61, which for folks with dementia, this makes sure that home health aides and APRNs and all those folks that deal with Alzheimer's patients and those folks that are dealing with dementia, they get a 3-hour, they are required to have a 3-hour class now a year that would specifically address those concerns and how to treat those folks for nurses or whoever's comes into care with those folks. It will give them better education on how to deal with dementia and Alzheimer's. Believe it or not, there wasn't a training for that or any sort of requirements. So a lot of these folks that were treating these patients didn't really have the knowledge base. So that helps. Also, Senate Bill 154, Tom Buford and Senator Tom Buford in Lexington, Senator Ralph Alvarado in Winchester really pushed this bill. And what this does, it allows folks that do home health like APRNs to be able to go out into the communities and provide home health care. A lot of folks need home health care to stay at home. And now this gives APRNs the incentive to they'll get reimbursed for their services now. So this will expand healthcare so more folks can stay at home rather than having to be in nursing homes. Also, telehealth is another thing. There's a telehealth bill, House Bill 140, that was sponsored by Representative Deanna Frazier. And what that does is it allows insurance companies to be reimbursed for telehealth services. So we can utilize all those technologies for telehealth now. And that means that, you know, if there's some sort of, if you're homebound and you need some sort of monitoring like heart or anything like that, that your doctor needs to know instantaneously how your condition is, now you can be reimbursed. The Medicaid can reimburse for those services, and other insurance companies can reimburse for these services. So we've expanded broad telehealth so that not only can you go to your doctor's appointments online and your insurance won't charge you an arm and a leg to do it, you can actually utilize all the services. It could be, certain x-rays, things like that. So you can do more things from home without having to go to the doctor. Of course, there's some services you need to be there, obviously checking your, any sort of bones that could be broken or any sort of injuries, obviously. But there's a lot you can do with telehealth. And I think that COVID-19 showed us that heck, we need to do that because we don't need to expose, we don't need to be around a lot of people in waiting rooms. So this will only help. And also broadband access, caveating on that, now there's broadband funding that the governor and the folks that are, most folks would agree with this. We have enough funding to actually supply broadband to every area of Kentucky now, which is huge. And also those folks that have slow internet, we're going to give you broadband too. So that's going to be a huge benefit for especially those folks in rural areas, but those folks in certain parts of town and the metros don't have fast internet. So this will expand to them. AARP supported all those bills. Also, Medicaid, you no longer have to pay co-payments for Medicaid. And when you're going to the doctors and stuff like that, they passed the bill a few sessions ago that said Medicaid folks should have skin in the game. And it's just a $10 copay, but what they found out that it costs more to collect that $10 than it has to actually charge them $10. And so I think that that's just a burden that they were putting on folks that need Medicaid, and now that's eliminated. So we're happy about that. We also, House Bill 574, which is an elections bill, and that expands absentee voting. It makes the process more streamlined. We would eventually like to see no excuse absentee voting, because sometimes folks that need to absentee vote because their health or that they just have trouble getting out of their homes, or other types of things. We think no excuse absentee voting needs to be something that's available for 50 plus, and especially the older end of our AARP members, of course, that might have trouble going out on those Tuesdays or when it's rainy, or might not have enough folks to give them a ride to the polls. So we think that there should be no excuse. Although this bill did not go there, it did expand access. If they have online access, they can easily get an absentee ballot now through an online portal. And then also the way they set the bill up, they can easily call their county clerks and get an absentee ballot if they are, prove that they can't be at the polls and vote in person. However, now we have 3 extra days to vote. So you can vote that Thursday, Friday, Saturday before the election, and then also on election day. They didn't expand the hours, but you can early vote now. So that expands. Well, all other states were seeming to take away ways to vote, make it harder to vote. Kentucky actually expanded access, and AARP was interested in expanding access for those that are 50 plus. And we saw this as a good way to do it. There's no mail-in voting or anything like that this bill did. It's a bipartisan bill that was supported by the governor and the secretary of state. It's supported by the president of the Senate and the minority leader of the Senate and the speaker of the House and the minority leader of the House. So it was a good step in the right direction. We would like to see it go further, but we'll continue to work on that. That if you look at CNN or New York Times or anything today, that was one of the lead stories, what Kentucky's doing for that. So we're really proud of that. We did make efforts on and supported those bills along the way. We supported those bills the whole way through. When the pandemic hit, we told the Secretary of State, the governor, and the county clerks and the Board of Elections, hey, we need to be able to vote safely. How can we vote safely? Can you give us a portal? Can we all do absentee voting? Because it's not smart to be in lines right now during a pandemic. So they all agreed with this. We did teletown halls to educate our members on that. And so this caveats into that elections bill that passed this session. So we're happy about that as well. But, probably the most proud of anything I've done with AARP is, if any of you all know, it's so hard to get anything in the budget. And I know we've all worked on it in the past, especially Bill Harned with, Meals on Wheels and those types of programs to help folks that through hunger and all the funding that we've tried to get. It's just really, really hard to get anything through. And our volunteers went through, we had over 60 or 50 volunteer virtual meetings with lots of volunteers participating. They asked our representatives and our senators, can you provide some support for these folks in nursing homes? When we were going through session, there was a lot of folks that were still passing away that were in nursing homes, a lot of cases in nursing homes of COVID-19. Can you please make sure that those staff have the right personal protective equipment? Can you please make sure that there's adequate testing? Because if there's not adequate testing, how do we know the staff have COVID, and how do we know who to quarantine, stuff like that? Can you make sure that there's money in the budget for that? Can you make sure there's money in the budget for staffing? Because there were staffing shortages in Kentucky. Part of the long-term care task force, what we did was we created fast teams to try to send folks into those nursing homes that are at short staff because their staff were getting COVID and they couldn't work. We had fast teams at first, but when it really got bad and was spiking in around December and January, we actually had the National Guard go in and provide services to those essential services in those nursing homes to make sure that they had staff. Now, staff helps with infection control because they keep residents from wandering into the COVID unit or something like that, or they make sure everything's clean, make sure everything's folks are wearing PPE and everything's safe. And now we have new visitation policies thanks to the CMS and CDC. That are now allowing folks in certain counties to visit those nursing homes. So we were very proactive on the long-term care task force. We realized that folks need to be able to visit their loved ones in person, and we believe they can do so safely. As we've seen, there is 0 cases and 0 deaths reported a few times this week. We're not out of the woods yet, and there's all kinds of variants going on. And of course, we just know that we've vaccinated most of our residents, and that most of the staff has been vaccinated. We need to do more. AARP will try to work on that and try and make sure the staff get vaccinated. But I know that's a long update. There's a lot of things that I covered there, but I'm really happy about what we accomplished: lowering the cost of prescription drugs, helping people live independently, and then also expanding options for care, access to care, and connectivity with telehealth, and also with broadband coverage. If anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to take them.
Yeah, I know Eric has another call going on, so we'll go ahead and do questions for him real quick right now, if anybody has any. And just remember, if you are muted, you will have to unmute to ask a question. Okay, I guess you were comprehensive enough.
All right. I guess my explanations are good enough. Thank you all. Thank you so much. And we love the work the chapter's doing, and thank you all for being part of AARP.
Thank you.
So now it's my turn on the agenda, and I'll tell you all, when I sent out the invite and we were looking specifically at dates for this week, the reason was because the national office is going to be offering chapter grants, and they've done this in the past. This isn't a new thing, and some of you all may have even taken advantage of it before, but they had hoped that they would be rolled out this week. They have not sent any information out yet, so I guess they're running a little bit behind. What I can tell you is they will be offering grants. You will be contacted. So what they'll do is they reach out to the chapter presidents as they're indicated in the volunteer portal. So in the instance of Ohio County, since we know you all are without a president right now, Carla, you are in, so you will receive those communications. But what they will do is they will do a mailing, they will email, and they also send the information to me, because they know sometimes folks don't necessarily look at emails from Sharon, or might throw mail away if they don't know what it is. So they'll send it to me as well, and I will send it out to you all as well. The grants, I believe she said, would be anywhere from $300 to $1,000. They're usually, the purpose of the grants is to try to increase membership, but of course right now, since we're not in person And the earliest, I meant to say this at the beginning, and most of you may know, but the earliest possible return to in-person is September 1. So we're still looking at 5 months of virtual. So they were going to tweak it a little bit. That guidance will all come out when she sends the information out. They provide usually a few weeks for you to, fill out the application, send it back into them. They had initially hoped, like I said, that they would get the information out this week, that people would send in their applications by later in April, and that they would start dispersing money by mid-May. But I'm not sure now, since we're pushed off a little bit, what those deadlines will be. But be looking for that information. It should be coming soon. My guess is maybe next week, since they didn't get to it this week. And again, you'll get a mailing and email from Sharon Ben Stewart with our national office, but I will also send the information out just to make sure that everybody receives it. And that's all I have on that. We can go ahead and pivot over to Scott to talk about events and how to connect with us online and find out what's going on.
Good afternoon, everybody. Rachel, how's the audio?
You're good.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is good to be with you again. You know, we love the chapters, and you all are the bedrock of AARP, and you always have been. So unfortunately, I'm calling in from the parking lot at Walmart in Bullitt County, because I just got the second dose of Moderna. But real quickly, not to waste a minute of your time, let me tell you, AARP Kentucky is working for you all across the state. My job is try and tell that story. It was exciting to see Charlotte get interviewed on the vaccine story for WHAS, and see Reverend James Thurman get interviewed yesterday with Spectrum News 1 on the lunch. Those are little ways that we show up locally in those media markets. But the one thing I just wanted to share with you all, anytime you want to send us some event or activity that you're participating in, or if you're working with your local retired teachers unit, let us know. We can share information about your work, about your volunteer service out in the state. And I would just check in on Facebook, AARP Kentucky, and check in on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, let me know. I want to follow you. Our blog has the most up-to-date Kentucky information on vaccines that AARP has produced. And that's simply aarp.org/KY. So those are the resources that we're trying to bring to you and the general public and our members across the state. We have about 430,000 members in Kentucky, AARP members. And our mission continues to serve and not be served. But it's just great to be with you. If you have any questions, we're always available. You can contact us online anytime through Facebook, Twitter, etc. And Instagram, if you're on Instagram. So, Rachel, I'll throw it back to you.
Okay.
That's all I have. Any questions?
So I will just say, folks, we do have every month we have virtual events going on hosted by our office. There are also virtual events going on all around the country. Obviously, I guess one of the plus sides of the pandemic is because events are virtual, you can attend an event in Nevada if you want, or something that's going on in New York. And so to find our events, you can again go to our website, and you can go to aarp.org/KY, or we also have sites for Louisville and Lexington, which are just aarp.org/Louisville and aarp.org/Lexington. But you'll see events, an events calendar that you can click on and look at everything that we have coming up. If you're interested in events that are being offered nationally, AARP launched a virtual community center. So if you Google AARP Virtual Community Center, you will see a list of upcoming events that other states have asked to be added to that calendar. So you'll see some of our events, but you'll also see offerings from other state offices. So there is a lot going on, and those are getting updated frequently. We have several events that are occurring right now. We have a yoga series on Wednesday mornings that's virtual. We have the last part of a caregiving series that's coming up. Some of you may or may not have known, we finished up with it, but we had been doing a cooking series that started back last summer and ran up until last month. So there's been a lot going on, all educational, but some of it a little bit more fun. So
Rachel, I have one more thing that I left out.
please.
Forgive me. So in the chat right now are the links to some of the sites that we mentioned. So you can go in, click on it, follow it. But importantly, there's a new push AARP has put out, AARP is .org/near-you. Well, I want you to test that out and see what pops up. You might be surprised what shows up. Secondly, this Sunday, April 11th, a very special offering. It's posted on our Facebook page and Twitter. It's a virtual play about the life and times of Muhammad Ali. And that is a special collaborative with AARP Illinois. It's free, registration required. But again, that's in this corner, Muhammad Ali. It's going to be a great virtual play. It's free, Sunday, April 11th. Check that out.
Rachel, do you want to mention to the chapters about if they have anything for the newsletter?
Sure, absolutely. You all should be receiving emails from me, and then there are a few folks who I just added to the distribution list. So if I have your email, you'll receive it this month. But every other month, we send out our volunteer newsletter. So I send that out the first week of odd numbered months. The next one will be coming out here the first week of May. I will be sending out an email next week asking for articles for that newsletter. And I usually give you all a week or a little bit longer to get those in. So we try to get those in the end of the even numbered months. So I can get everything laid out. And we love to include not only stuff from staff, but from our volunteers, from our chapters, even from partner organizations, just to share as much information as we can. I know that some of the chapters were regularly including submissions prior to the pandemic. I know it's a little rough right now with, again, things being virtual, but if you're doing something virtual, if you're having a Zoom meeting or something that you want to share or just updates about what's going on with your chapter, please send those in to me. I always include them. If a volunteer or a chapter sends me something, I get it in the newsletter. So that's why you'll see that the newsletter is not always the same length every month. It's not always the exact same format every month. You know, I'm just trying to get in whatever you all want to share along with everything that we want to share. So that email will be going out, like I said, sometime next week. And I'm looking to have all of the submissions sent in to me by April 23rd, which is two weeks from tomorrow.
Okay, I guess we'll open it up for questions. Just hold your hand up and we'll know you have a question.
Well, not everybody's on video, but if you have a question, you know, go ahead and take yourself off mute. We do want to try to answer anything that you may be wondering about.
Question here. This is
Bill. Yes, go ahead.
our chapter, of course, has been shut down during this whole COVID, and our people have lost the habit of coming to the chapter meeting. So one of the things I've thought of is if the other chapters all across the country are going to follow the rules and not start up until September, if there's any way to share their ideas on how they're going to reignite their folks to come back and share them with the other chapters, I think that would be a great thing. And our chapter has always centered around a lunchtime meeting. We'd have our lunch, everybody would talk and then to each other, and then we'd have a program. The food question is still going to be big, I think, in September, how we handle things like we used to do a potluck So any guidance along those lines would be very helpful, is what we can and or should and should not do in terms of food and other possible ways people might get the virus. So sharing some information along those lines, I think, would really be helpful.
Sure, and I know when it gets closer for them to move back to in-person, they will share guidance, what you're speaking about in terms of, spacing at meetings or meals or whatnot. I can, in the interim though, Bill, reach out to our chapter folks and our volunteer folks with the national office and see if they're hearing things from other states and other chapters about how they're handling the virtual and what they're planning to do moving back to in-person in terms of, getting folks excited to come back, and see what I find out and share that with all of you all.
Great.
Good question. Any more, Kathy, do you have anything to say? You came on a little late, Kathy. You're on mute.
This is Ralph.
Okay.
I've had several members have contacted me to say they will not be coming back to AARP simply because they found other things to do with the time slot we normally meet. I don't know if other chapters are going to have that same problem or not.
And I don't know, Rachel, do you have any comments?
No, I was just going to say, I think that you probably aren't alone in that, Ralph. We're on 13 months of virtual. And, if other groups or organizations were doing in person, I could see that, that's probably a larger issue and not just something that you're seeing with your chapter. I haven't heard, you're the first from our state that has mentioned that to me, but I'm sure it's more widespread.
One of the people that said that they're not coming back is one of our executives.
Sure.
So as soon as our first meeting, we're going to have a voting session for that as well to replace that person.
I know our chapter is considering a letter, maybe 6 weeks out to when we can meet, to welcome people back. Maybe we can write that grant to have a box lunch meal that day. I don't know. We're just going to have to brainstorm on those issues. But I think, Rachel, if you could, have some leadership here with us to help us with that, that would be awesome. Do you have any reports you need to talk about that need to be in that maybe you don't have in from every chapter?
I cannot speak to what has been turned in or has not. National handles all of the reporting. So, I know we had a couple of chapters that had requested an extension on the deadline for the treasurer's report this year. And the Sharon Ben Stewart, who is our national chapter specialist, had extended deadlines for those folks. They did still send out those reports the end of last year to be turned in. Sorry, my allergies are bad. So hopefully everybody either turned in those reports or got an extension and is currently working on them to get them in. If not, reach out to me and we can reach out to Sharon and let her know you need an extension, and hopefully it's not too late. But I know the deadline for those was in January. So ideally they all would have been in, or the extension would have been requested before that due date. I will say, the return, Charlotte just mentioned 6 weeks to 2 months out. I can't guarantee that we're going to know definitively 6 weeks to 2 months out, if you all are going to be able to return or not. It might be a much closer to the start date. We're hoping for September 1. Hopefully that will be when it is. But as soon as they start rolling information out, I will get it out to you all. Again, the national office does communicate directly with whoever the president in the system is for your chapter, but they also communicate that information with me before they send it out to you. So you'll get it from them, but I will send it out as well, so that, if something gets lost in the mail, or if their emails end up in spam, hopefully you'll receive it from me. We try to bombard you with it to make sure that you're not missing important information. And what we may do, which may be a good idea, is once we do know that date and have the guidelines, maybe we'll do another one of these calls and go over the information. And that way, you know, sometimes it's easier for you to ask questions in this type of format than back and forth on an email. So that is probably a good idea for us to consider as well once we get closer to that return to in-person.
Rachel, did most chapters waive their dues this year? I know we did.
You know, several chapters mentioned that they did way back when. I can't remember who all now, but I think that was kind of a universal thing. But I'm not sure, you know, if it was all or most of them.
Yeah, if we could have, once you do know, if we could have another one of these, and maybe we can encourage all our officers to be on this call, that would be great. I'm surprised I don't think Lexington's on here, are they?
No, but again, like I said, we're recording this and we'll try to get the link out to all of the chapter officers so that, you know, if people want to share it with other members or just weren't able to be on, then they can check out the video and see what we talked about. Does anybody else?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anybody else have questions for us? We still have about 12 minutes of our time today, if anybody else has anything.
Well, I hope to get to the chapters that I have not been to, Richmond being one of them, and I think Audubon as well. So hopefully when the world opens back up, then I'll be able to visit your chapters and I get to meet some of you all personally. It's been a tough year not to be out and about and visiting with our chapters and our members. And so we're all looking forward to the new world. So Mr. Ron, do you have any final comments?
Thank you, Charlotte. Everyone, thank you for your time today. As Charlotte suggested, we'll have more of these meetings. I see John Rosenberg. Hey, I didn't see you there, John. No other further comments from me, Charlotte, but thanks everyone. The briefings, folks have suggested that they'll be available for your questions. Take them up on that. They're really willing to assist in any way. Thank you, Charlotte.
When I send out the email with the recording, what I will do in that is just make sure to include all of the staff, you know, who's on staff and what they're working on. For some of you who may not know, you know, Aisha handles fraud and everything going on in Louisville, and Daniel's doing work on utilities and what's going on in Lexington. And that way you'll just kind of have a list right there in front of you. So if you do have a question about a specific issue, you can reach out directly to those folks.
Again, hello, John. Good to see you. We have, how many we have 5 chapters represented. Is that right, Rachel?
I think so. Yes, I think we have Audubon and Jenny White. We've got Prestonsburg, we've got Mount Washington, Richmond, and Ohio County.
And there's a total of 9, correct?
11.
11. Okay. Well, that's great. So yeah, if we maybe one before, I'd say in 2 months have one, and then the big one before we open up. Okay.
We can absolutely do that.
Okay. Well, thank all of y'all for doing this. Any more comments from anyone? John, you have anything to say?
Nice to see everybody. I'm sorry I couldn't get on earlier. I was tied up, but where's the recording, Rachel? Where will I find it?
We'll get that out to you all after the call. I'll send out an email to everybody with that information. So you will have access to it.
Thanks so much. Good to see you all.
You too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I might mention that today is National Holocaust Memorial Day, and this week is being celebrated in various ways. There is a wonderful museum up in Cincinnati now in our neighborhood. If you're interested, I did an interview last night with the Paul Sawyer Library in Frankfurt, which they recorded, which is probably not my best, but if you're interested in the story and listening, you'll find it on there. It was recorded recorded as well.
Rachel, can you share that recording with us of John? Is that right?
Yeah, and John, who did you do that with?
At the library in Frankfurt.
Okay.
And it was, I think they also did it on Facebook, but it was a Zoom link that was recorded. I mean, it was a Zoom program and they
Sure.
recorded it. So I haven't tried to look to find it yet, but should
I will look for it and then try to include it in the email with the link with everything else I promised you. It'll be a big email.
Well, it's not, you know, I always think I'm not the best interviewee, but it is the story. So
Thanks for
that's what I mentioned that's going on right now.
Thank you.
All right, Charlotte, you want to bring us home?
Okay, have a great day. See you in a couple of months. Keep your work up and we're proud of you. Thank you. Bye-bye.